The 2024 Six Invitational is right around the corner, and I thought before the tournament gets started that it would be good to just go over some of the important narratives and have a little fun talking about what winning SI would mean for a few of the teams in the tournament. To start off, it's the favorites, it's the one everyone's talking about with the most at stake. It is W7M. For W7M, winning the Six Invitational would mean that they have won every event in the 2023 to 2024 Siege circuit, and it would cement their claim to an era. The Brazilians have been considered one of the best teams in the world since 2022, and ever since SI23, they have been the best team. Winning both majors in a year gives them the results to call themselves the best team of 2023, but without lifting the hammer, W7M will not have an era. Teams like Empire have proved as much when they won both a Pro League final and a major, but missed out on the Invitational, making their claim to dominance a little shaky. The Invitational is the capstone event in more ways than one for this community, and it is essential for any team's claim for an era. W7M has all the other prerequisites. It's all on lifting the hammer now. Of course, there's more at play here. The meta has changed since the last time we've seen W7M play. The dominance of defensive ops like Azami and Solus are still at large, especially with the addition of Tubarão into the mix. One of the most useful tactics for getting around these powerful defensive operators was vertical nades, and W7M used them very, very well, but that style of play, that utility has been changed, so W7M has to make some major adjustments to how they play. If they want to stay on top, to win SI, they're going to have to pivot to adjust to this new meta, which is another mark of the great teams across all of esports. To add in, there's a little extra added spice for W7M here because the organization W7M and the players will not be re-signing for the next year of competition. So this may be a make or break opportunity for the organization to have this be called the W7M era, as opposed to whatever org inevitably picks up this team. Woe be the org that gets forgotten for the bigger name that finds more success. Looking at you, Penta. This is a universal concern for all of esports and all Brazilian teams in esports, but the home crowd advantage, it doesn't actually exist for Brazilian teams in esports like CS.
If you look at the history of Brazilians in Brazil, the Brazilian crowd doesn't make them do better, and having home support isn't a key factor. In fact, the best Brazilian teams, historically, I would say, perform better outside of Brazil. And in fact, it's quite bizarre how many fails they've had in Brazil, how many times in front of their home crowd, even sometimes against lesser teams. They've just dropped the ball when they were supposed to win. They were the better team.
So we'll have to see if that holds true in Rainbow Six as well, or if that's a Counter-Strike exclusive feature. I should also mention at the start of this that for every team that isn't W7M, this is the opportunity to deny W7M's era. If you win SI, especially if you do so over W7M, all the glory that would have gone to their potential era goes to you. It's quite literally the robbery of the century, and that's what everyone's thinking about. Now, let's talk about professional esports organization Gamers 2. For G2, winning the Six Invitational is a matter of proving the doubters wrong, and there's a lot of them. Professional esports organization Gamers 2 always has had accusations of super team syndrome, in part thanks to the aura that their former CEO brought to every game he invested in. And the R6 division is a little bit more gung-ho about this than even the other G2 teams. The squad has not been in good form right now. They failed to convert off the success of winning SI23 and have had roster troubles ever since. They first picked up Gemini, who was supposed to be this nasty hard support, and they dropped him after a single event. Since then, they picked up Uno and Ramalho, which, should be better because now there's a little bit of stability, but they haven't fared any better. The professional esports organization Gamers 2 got thrown all out of sorts at the major. Sure, they made it to the semis in Atlanta, but the world champion from professional esports organization Gamers 2, Alamau, got thrown all out of sorts just by some trash talk from Herds. Even without that, the team wasn't looking impressive despite their semifinals appearance. And since then, it's been looking even worse in the Tier 2 Pro-Ams. Professional esports organization Gamers 2 losing to Jihu speaks for itself. To win SI would turn all of these troubles into water under the bridge. It's also a chance for G2, the organization, to lift 3 hammers, the most of any organization within Rainbow Six. This is a chance for this particular core of players to lift the hammer for this organization more than the legends of Pengu and Fabian. And for Alamau, this is a chance to prove yet again that the trip to EU was more than warranted to find the success in front of a Brazilian crowd. That's spicy. For G2 to win SI, it really is just a matter of getting back in form and making use of all that talent that you've been stacking on this team year on year. Last Invitational was a hell of a loser's bracket run, so why can't Lightning strike twice? There's a lot of parallels right now between W7M and Penta Sports in the 2018 Invitational and the current G2 roster and Evil Geniuses, ironically enough. So, because EG was coming into SI18 with a really rough year, but still coming in as the previous world champions. And they were slated to go up against the top team of the year, which was Penta. And Penta had won almost every tournament in that year. So it was the team that had a potential era starting versus the previous world championships. And, well, would you look at that? What do we have right here, right in front of us? It's W7M with the potential era, and it's G2, the previous world champions, who are out of sorts. Yeah, it is like poetry. It does rhyme. Now, talking about the Sonics. The Sonics are an odd case for me, because they are one of the best teams in North America and have been probably the best international performer out of the region for a while now, albeit inconsistent with it. But to lift a hammer would name them the de facto best team in NA, a field that's been frankly wide open for a while now. It would also justify the ballsy Citizen pickup because, for as much as it's kind of paid off, it's not nearly as bombastic as you really was hoping it would be. This would also give Geometrics his second hammer, and should he win with the Sonics, would prove that he is also in the conversation for being one of those really, really good IGLs. This would also put a lot of respect on Goddess as a coach. Discussions around a coaching staff in NA always overlook her for the obvious names like Bodega, Callout, and Mint. Winning a hammer can serve as a lightning rod to start the conversation about what Goddess is really doing for this team and how much her impact is enabling this squad. Ambi joining this squad, not only is this a young player who has not played a lick of Tier 1 in his entire career, he's turning 18 just before this tournament, so this is his first Tier 1 experience, his first tournament with the Sonics, his first LAN tournament, and it's the biggest tournament of the year. Ambi is coming in with a lot of expectations at his feet, not only because of just the stakes of the tournament, but also because he's been this T3 demon in North America for years now. He's been in the trenches, too young to compete in anything forever. To be on LAN in the biggest event of the calendar year is brutal, but this wouldn't be the first time we've seen a young gun thrive under the pressure. It would be one of the most impressive examples of it, though. Especially because we've seen prodigies like Benja come in to a team and immediately win SI. That was a little bit different. Benja had gotten his feet wet and had a little bit of T1 experience before he did so. Ambi's coming in fresh. He's getting thrown into the deep end with this one. Now, let's talk about M80, because M80 is supposed to be this North American super team. It's great that they can dominate domestically, but ever since Spoit signing, they've never really performed internationally, which is crazy, because we know Spoit got signed for the big bucks and is a straight 1-to-1 upgrade compared to Spirits. Yet M80 hasn't made it out of groups with this superstar at the helm ever. In fact, they have a dismal 1-6 record ever since signing the Swedish entry. Given the resources that we know are put into this particular project and the performances that they give domestically, there's a lot of expectations on this team that they have never met, and that's damning. For M80 to win the Invitational would flip that script in a snap. Bodega will get massive credit for the coaching work he's doing, and the squad would frankly establish a lot of important narratives. Iconic stock as an IGL and captain would rise. He's always been a shot caller that's good enough tactically, but it's always about the other aspects of his game that you pick up an IGL like him. It's the aura, it's the attitude, it's the in-game explosiveness, rather than the tactics or the mid-round calls. But lifting a hammer would make people reevaluate that and really reflect on where is Iconic in the IGL discussion. For players like Gomez and Diaz, the hammer would cement them as some of the best players to come out of NA since the start of the NAL. And for Spoit, this win would also justify his gamble to come across the ocean and join NA. It would also lend credence to his skills as an individual star, as he would have found success on two completely different teams, and you couldn't say, oh, he was carried by the veterans of Rogue. Now it's Spoit finding success on a different team. It's what he brings to the team, and it's not in doubt, it's not a question. Now, I'm going to list a few off in lightning round just because there's a few more narratives I want to get to, but I don't want to go too deep with these. So, let's go. First off, DZ. The return of Bolo. The King coming in at the last minute to lift a hammer, like, that's kind of baller, can't lie. Canadian getting 3 hammers as a player would cement him undoubtedly as the GOAT IGL, given his success across 3 completely different rosters. And the Nathan port would have paid off and, would make us have to start the conversation about, hey, maybe NA is shit, so we give up on developing talent. For the Wolves, they've always been a top team, but they've never made it past semis. A win or even a finals performance, honestly, might give them the push they need to become a real top dog. Plus, I just find the narrative around Bibu's career lifting a hammer at this point being really poetic given his very stereotypical but still beautiful transition from being that nasty Ashe player way back in year 1, in year 2, to being more of a supportive element that's the captain of this squad. I love that traditional arc for players, and Bibu lifting the hammer now after going through that entire journey would just be beautiful in my mind. VP, this would be the hammer that they never got under the Empire. A trophy that massively boosts Joystick's place in the GOAT conversation, and frankly would prove that wacky metas, wacky playstyles are absolutely beautiful and can win you major tournaments. Now, SSG. Crank. No, but seriously, this would massively boost Callout's reputation given the turnaround he's had with this team and Astralis before this. SSG was viewed as almost a North American sandbox for a while because they would qualify for major events, yeah, but they would never do anything. When Callout came into this equation, the team started turning around. So the impact that Callout would have and the impact that winning SI would have on somebody like Callout, on the players like Fultz, like Houghton, like Forrest, would be really, really huge and just a really cool story of turning around an underwhelming team into a world championship. Of course, Ashen is another central figure in this narrative for this team because he was another one of those Aerial Arise Academy demons. So his success might speak to giving talent in NA a chance. Although this team is so vibes dependent that it really is a matter of whether or not they can find their groove on enemy soil when they don't have the home field advantage. For FaZe and Los, this is literally just denying the satisfaction of W7M, their era on home soil. There's more to it than that. For Cameraman, we've got to start talking about the GOAT IGL's conversation, but I imagine for a lot of these Brazilian teams, it's all about taking down the Bulls, That's just what it is. If you're Liquid, fucking finally, Nets, please. And then APAC, guys, just don't drown in groups, please.